Welcome back. So any class you in standard, you would find having its variables, having multiple methods, and will have one or many constructors. So first we should understand one constructor properly, and then we should use it. So let's say the name of a class is T1. What will be the name of a constructor? It will be T1. Exactly, you define it like method, but no return type. That's it. Can I have more than one constructors? Yes, gentlemen. I can have T1 with no inputs. I can have T1 with int x. So method overloading does supports in constructor. All right. Now on, I'll show you another code which will help you. Probably this picture will help you understand. All right. You can observe it. Every class ideally should have what you should keep in a constructor. Whatever you want to be called before calling any member of a class, which means constructor is the member called very first before any other member is being called. Even if you see in our code, you can very well see that though the name equal to whatever is here, but that is inside the constructor. So the very first line being called is KYC constructor. So yes, I can comment here, it is a constructor. All right. Now, if this is a constructor, can I have another constructor? Just for the understanding, I'll make 2-3 constructors for you. I'll have all right. And to you, it may sound a little different for you now. I'm not implementing it internally, anything. Now, let us not go inside of it, but just see as a structure. All right. So you in this code now, you have 3 constructors for the different purposes. All right. All these constructors are valid constructors. And they all are public. Now the question comes, when you will be calling which constructor, in which scenario you will call. For your understanding, right now, the code is calling this constructor. So in this code right now, I want you to think which among these constructors is being called when you are making the object. As per my understanding, right now, this one is called. I'll do a small change and then you will realize this is being called. I'll just do a quick change. See here carefully. I'll just pass anything a string. It is string. That's it. Can you tell me now which one is being called? Just think and tell which one is being called now. I'll keep them side by side. Yeah. So these are 2 different codes. Just think and tell in which scenario which one will be called. Here I'm saying it is calling the first one, and here I'm saying it is calling the second one. But now you must see that actually, since it is a method which is being called, KYC is just a method. So depending on the nature of the data being passed among this, a particular method will be called, like method overloading. So you would be right if you are thinking that instead of passing a string data, what if I pass a string and an integer? Definitely it will call that method. We'll see in the code now by running it. So for now, in this code, similar to this, I'll implement just for understanding. You're in string constructor. So constructor number 2, just for memory. And accordingly, I'll keep it here. You are into string int constructor number 3. If at all you literally want to not focus on these things for now, you can hide it. This is one quick way of hiding things. I'll just write it. I'm sorry. Now, our sole motto right now is to understand which constructor will be called. Can you tell me which constructor now will be called if I run it? Let us run and see. All right. It shoots to first constructor. Yeah, very carefully. You can see this. Yeah, it's being called the first one. And whatever it is, it does. All right. Now I'll run it again. And before that, I do a change here and try to pass some string data. Something like that. String dummy. Which one will be called now? Earlier it has called this one. All right. You can see it goes to line number 18 and below. Shoots. Right. If I pass, anyway, it will continue, get inside and do the work and display. You are into the string constructor. All right. What if I pass 2 parameters, string dummy and let's say 100? Which one it will call now? I think it will call the third one because string and integer. Shoots. Right? And it did. All right. Now for understanding, I will use all the 3. Which you can keep for your understanding. Yeah, we have all 3 options. KYC. This is object 1, this is object 2, object 3. Generally, we avoid it, but to understand, I'm doing it so. Different object and different work. I'm reducing the spacing so that I can increase the size of the code. a bit, you can see. So let us take this for discussion again. Now let us try to understand. Whenever you make an object, you are literally calling a constructor. You are calling a constructor. Either you are passing nothing or you are passing something, which means to make an object, you have to call a constructor with a keyword new. If you pass a constructor, a matching constructor will be called. In this case, here it is called. In this case, this has been called. I'll probably make different colors, use of different colors. You can understand what is happening by this. This is a little bigger video and it would have helped you. The questions may come when you will be calling which one. That's a practical implementation. But for now, you need to understand to make an object, you are definitely calling a constructor. Then the new one thing comes up. So what happens if I really do not have any constructor being written? What happens? Let's say I don't have implemented any constructors. If you see carefully, these two, it is saying it is being not defined. So leave it. You cannot use them. What happens is if you do not mention any constructor, the code expects a blank useful constructor having nothing. So it creates a constructor for you without anything inside, without having outside, nothing. So if you do not yourself create a constructor and give the data, assume this 4 line of the code is hiddenly there into the code. Technical answer is at the compile time, if the constructor is not being written in a class, it creates only one constructor, not many, one constructor, which is exactly this. Name of a class, open close parenthesis. And if at all you ask me to remember, how do you remember? It creates exactly this. This much. That's it. So that it suffices that there must be a constructor. However, one of my favorite questions, which has been asked many a time. So what happens to the default constructor if I make a constructor? Well, the moment you make a constructor, default constructors are not available. So let's say you wanted to have a default constructor like this. So this was our standard and we had this all constructors. Now suppose in the beginning there was no constructors and you had in your mind that anyway at the runtime it will create this constructor. Fine. It is only being done if you don't write. If you write a constructor, the moment you write, the default constructor is gone. So what if I create a constructor with some different data? Do you still have the default constructor? No. The moment you have created this constructor, the default constructor is gone. It's not available. To understand that, what I will do is, I have these, and I thought that anyway it creates the default constructor. Why to have the default constructor? Remove it. No, gentlemen. The moment you make a single constructor, the default constructor is not there. And that is why it is saying for the without parameter default constructor, it doesn't exist. So if you have mentioned a single constructor in your code, the default one goes away. There is no default constructor. You have to mention it exclusively. You have to. whether with the body or without body, you have to. So this is small confusion to come out with. Something is given to you by default. It is only available, not as an extra. It is only available when you do not mention a single constructor. The moment you have mentioned a single constructor, the default provisioning is gone. The more of this comes into clarity when you do the practice. We'll probably be doing more practice around it, and that time it will be clear. So all this constructor, the kind of constructor, how do we use the constructor? We will continue. Thank you very much.